Veronica's interest piqued. Sing? She asked, surprised. Like for fun? The waitress nodded, but there was a hint of hesitation in her voice. Yes, but it's just a hobby. I don't think much of it. Veronica leaned in slightly, her curiosity growing. But you've got a beautiful voice. I heard you singing the other night. Why don't you ever perform? The waitress shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact. It's just not something I do, she said, her voice trailing off. Veronica didn't let it go. But why? You have so much talent. I mean, it's obvious. Why not share it with the world? The waitress shrugged, her smile faint. It's complicated. Life isn't always that simple. Veronica was silent for a moment, processing the conversation. She couldn't help but feel a bit of sadness for the waitress. Here was someone with a gift, someone who could have a future in music, yet she was holding back, unsure of herself and her potential. It was almost as if she didn't believe she deserved the chance to succeed, or maybe she just didn't think she could. Veronica sat back in her chair, thinking about what she had just learned. There was more to this woman than she had ever imagined. She had talent, but for some reason, she had chosen to keep it hidden, maybe out of fear or self-doubt. Veronica realized that it was clear. This waitress didn't see herself the way others saw her, and perhaps that was the reason she never seemed interested in her own success. She was simply trying to survive. Veronica's perspective began to shift. The waitress wasn't just a background figure in her world anymore. She was someone with depth, with dreams, but also with challenges that Veronica had never considered. For the first time, Veronica thought that maybe, just maybe, she could help. A few days later, something unexpected happened. The restaurant was quieter than usual, the buzz of conversation replaced by soft clinks of silverware and the hum of kitchen sounds in the background. Veronica had just sat down at her usual spot when she noticed the waitress again. She wasn't serving any customers at the moment, and her attention seemed to drift away from the tasks at hand. To Veronica's surprise, she began humming a tune, something soft, almost like a melody carried on the wind. Veronica, who was used to the usual hum of the restaurant, immediately noticed how different this was. It wasn't just a random sound. It was clear that the waitress was singing. The voice wasn't loud or demanding attention, but it was beautiful, soft, yet full of emotion. Veronica felt a strange pull to it, as though the song was tugging at something deep inside her. She stopped what she was doing, her attention fully fixed on the sound. As she listened more closely, Veronica could hear the emotion in the voice. It was as if the waitress was singing from her heart, not just as a way to pass the time. The words weren't clear, but the feeling behind them was unmistakable. Veronica's gaze followed the waitress around the room, her curiosity reaching new heights. The voice was powerful in its simplicity, and Veronica realized that she had been wrong all along. She had seen the waitress only as a worker, a background figure in her life, but now she saw her as something more, someone with a story, someone who had a voice that deserved to be heard. For a few minutes, Veronica just sat there, absorbing the sound of the singing. She could hear the slight cracks in the voice, the small imperfections that made it feel so real, so genuine. It wasn't perfect. It was better than perfect. It had something raw about it, something that made Veronica feel connected to this woman she had barely spoken to. There was no show, no grand performance, just a real, heartfelt song. When the song came to an end, the waitress went back to her duties, as if nothing had happened. But for Veronica, something had changed. She was no longer the rich heiress looking down from her pedestal. She was someone who had just witnessed a hidden talent, a beautiful gift that the waitress had kept to herself for so long. Veronica couldn't shake the feeling that she needed to do something about it. This woman deserved more than just being a waitress. She deserved a chance to show the world what she could do. After a few moments of contemplation, Veronica made a decision. She stood up and walked over to where the waitress was standing, her mind buzzing with ideas. She wanted to say something that could open the door to a new world for the waitress. When she reached her, she spoke gently, trying not to startle her. "Your voice, Veronica began, her voice soft but full of sincerity. "It's amazing. I've never heard anything like it." The waitress, clearly surprised, looked up at Veronica. She seemed embarrassed, almost as though she hadn't realized anyone had been listening. She quickly shrugged, as if to dismiss the compliment. "It's nothing. Just something I do when I'm alone," she said, her tone quiet. But Veronica wasn't going to let it go. "No," she said firmly, her gaze steady. "It's not nothing. You have something special. Have you ever thought about performing? Or even recording your music?" The waitress hesitated, looking down at the floor for a moment. "I don't know," she said quietly. "It's just a dream. Nothing more." Veronica could feel the weight of those words, the way the waitress seemed to push her own dreams aside, as if they were too far out of reach. Veronica knew what it was like to have everything handed to you on a silver platter, but she also understood how easy it was to ignore the things that truly mattered. The waitress had been living in a world where she had to keep her dreams hidden, to bury them beneath the weight of everyday life. "Don't sell yourself short," Veronica said gently. "Everyone deserves a chance to follow their dreams. You shouldn't have to hide what you're capable of." For a moment, the waitress looked uncertain. Her eyes flickered with something. Hope, maybe, or fear. Veronica could see that she was struggling with the idea of stepping into the spotlight, of exposing herself in a way she hadn't before. But there was something in Veronica's voice, something that told her she wasn't just offering empty words. She truly believed in her. "I'll help you," Veronica continued. "If you want to, I can introduce you to people who can help you get started. You deserve to be heard." The waitress looked up at Veronica, her expression softening. For the first time, there was a glimmer of something new in her eyes, a spark of possibility. It was a tiny spark, but it was enough. "I don't know," the waitress said, her voice trailing off. "You don't have to decide right now," Veronica said, her smile warm. "Just think about it. But know this, you're not alone in this. You don't have to do it by yourself." For the first time, the waitress allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, her dreams weren't as impossible as they had seemed. She looked at Veronica, a small, uncertain smile forming on her face. There was still a long road ahead, but for the first time, it didn't seem so lonely. A mini. The days that followed were filled with a sense of anticipation and uncertainty. The waitress, who had been hesitant at first, found herself thinking about Veronica's words over and over again. Could she really take the leap? Could she leave behind her quiet life and step into something bigger, something that felt impossible just a short while ago? She wasn't sure. But for the first time, in years, a tiny part of her began to hope. Veronica didn't let the idea slip away either. She checked in on the waitress every time she came into the restaurant, offering small words of encouragement, reminding her of the talent she had and how much the world needed to hear it. Veronica had seen something in her that the waitress hadn't seen in herself, a spark, a potential that had been hidden beneath layers of doubt and fear. The waitress, still unsure, started to allow herself to dream a little. She would sing in the quiet of her small apartment, her voice growing more confident as the days passed. It was as though each note she sang brought her closer to the idea that maybe, just maybe, her voice was something worth sharing. She began to imagine what it would be like to stand on a stage, to have an audience listen to her, not as a waitress, but as an artist. One evening, after work, Veronica invited her to meet at a small cafe. She had heard about an upcoming talent competition that was being held in the city, and she thought it might be the perfect opportunity for the waitress to showcase her talent. It was a big step, one that could change everything. Veronica could see the hesitation in the waitress's eyes as they sat down at a corner table. "Look," Veronica said, pushing a flyer across the table. "This competition is your chance. It's a safe space for people like you, people who have something to offer, but just need that first step." The waitress looked at the flyer, her fingers tracing the edges. I don't know. What if I'm not good enough? What if I mess up? Veronica leaned forward, her voice steady. You are good enough. I've heard you sing, and trust me, you've got something special. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real, about sharing what's inside of you. The waitress stared at the flyer, her heart racing. She wanted to believe in Veronica's words, but fear still clung to her. She had spent so long convincing herself that her dreams weren't possible, that she didn't deserve a chance. But here was Veronica, someone from a completely different world, telling her that she was worthy, that her voice mattered. It was hard to shake off years of self-doubt. I'll go, the waitress said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. I'll do it, but I'm scared. Veronica smiled warmly. That's okay. Being scared means you're pushing yourself, stepping out of your comfort zone. That's where the magic happens. The following weeks were a blur of nervous excitement. The waitress practiced in the evenings, her nerves building with each passing day. Veronica continued to check in on her, offering encouragement, helping her with the song choice, even suggesting ways to calm her nerves before the performance. She had become more than just a friend. She had become a mentor, someone who believed in the waitress when no one else had. The night of the competition arrived, and the waitress stood backstage, her heart pounding in her chest. The stage lights felt blinding, and the audience seemed like a sea of unfamiliar faces. She could hear, her breath quickening, her palms sweating, but then she remembered Veronica's words. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real. When it was her turn, she walked out onto the stage, the microphone in front of her. The nerves were still there, but she took a deep breath and began to sing. The first few notes were shaky, but as she continued, something inside her shifted. The music took over, and she lost herself in the song. She wasn't a waitress anymore. She was an artist, doing what she had always dreamed of. As she sang, she felt the weight of her fears lifting. The crowd wasn't judging her. They were listening. They were moved by her voice, her story. For the first time in her life, she felt like she belonged. When the song ended, the room erupted in applause. The waitress stood there stunned, her heart racing with excitement and disbelief. She had done it. She had stepped out of the shadows and into the light. And in that moment, she realized something. Her dreams weren't impossible after all. Veronica was there in the audience cheering her on. When their eyes met, Veronica smiled proudly. The waitress had taken the first step, and now there was no turning back. The days that followed the competition were filled with excitement, but also a little uncertainty. The waitress, now a woman on the verge of something new, couldn't stop thinking about her performance. The applause still echoed in her ears, and her heart swelled each time she remembered how it felt to stand on that stage and share her voice with an audience. It had been everything she had dreamed of, but it was also only the beginning. Veronica, of course, had been there from the start, encouraging her every step of the way. After the performance, she had told the waitress how proud she was, how incredible she had done. But now came the hardest part. What came next? It wasn't enough to just sing in front of a crowd. It wasn't enough to just have a dream. Now the waitress had to make that dream a reality. She had to believe in herself as much as Veronica believed in her. Veronica reached out to a few people she knew in the music industry. She had connections, people who could help give the waitress the break she deserved. One afternoon, Veronica called her and invited her to meet at a cafe again, this time to discuss the next steps. The waitress felt nervous, unsure of what to expect, but also hopeful. She knew she had talent, but it felt unreal to think about taking such a big step into the music world. When they sat down, Veronica wasted no time. "I've made some calls," she said, her voice filled with excitement. "There's a music producer who's interested in meeting you. He's seen the video of your performance, and he wants to talk about what you can do next." The waitress's eyes widened. Her heart skipped a beat. "A producer? You mean Someone who can actually help me make music. Get my songs out there. Veronica nodded. Exactly. He thinks you have something special. This is your chance to see where your voice can take you. The waitress felt a mix of excitement and fear. It was happening so quickly, and she wasn't sure if she was ready. Could she handle the pressure? Could she keep up with the expectations of the music world? All of the doubts that she had buried deep inside started to resurface. She had always been someone who played it safe, someone who worked hard, but kept her head down, not drawing attention to herself. Now, the world was offering her a chance to shine, and she wasn't sure if she could take it. Veronica must have sensed her hesitation. I know it's a lot to take in, she said gently. But you've already done the hardest part. You got on that stage, you sang your heart out, and you were amazing. Don't let fear hold you back now. The waitress looked down at her hands, still unsure. I don't know if I can do it. What if I fail? What if it doesn't work out? Veronica reached across the table, placing her hand on the waitress's. Failure isn't something to fear. It's just a part of the journey. And even if it doesn't happen overnight, you've already taken a huge step. You've already proven to yourself that you can do this. You've got the talent, the heart, and the passion. The rest will come. Fund. Waitress took a deep breath, looking up at Veronica. She saw the belief in Veronica's eyes, and it gave her the courage to consider the possibility that this could be her reality. Maybe it was time to stop doubting herself, to stop letting fear control her decisions. She had been given a chance, and it was up to her to take it. I'll do it, the waitress said, her voice steady. I'll meet with the producer. I'll take the chance. Veronica's face broke into a smile. That's the spirit. And no matter what happens, I'll be here to support you every step of the way. With that, a new chapter began for the waitress. She was no longer just the quiet, reserved woman behind the counter. She was someone who had the chance to make her dreams come true. And though the journey would be difficult, filled with uncertainty and challenges, she now knew one thing for sure. She wasn't alone. Veronica would be there, cheering her on, and no matter what, the waitress would keep singing. She would keep following her dreams, because for the first time, she truly believed in herself. The days following the meeting with the producer were filled with a whirlwind of emotions. The waitress, now fully embracing the path she had once doubted, felt both excited and terrified. She had made the decision to move forward, but with that decision came the weight of uncertainty. She had never imagined herself stepping into the music industry, let alone being taken seriously as an artist. But here she was, about to meet someone who could help turn her dream into a reality. Veronica, as always, was by her side, guiding her through each step. She helped the waitress prepare for the meeting, offering advice and encouragement. Just be yourself, Veronica had said. Don't try to be someone you're not. They want to see the real you. The day of the meeting arrived, and the waitress felt her nerves starting to get the best of her. She stood in front of the mirror, adjusting her clothes, running her fingers through her hair. But nothing seemed to calm her racing heart. What if she wasn't good enough? What if they saw her for who she really was? A waitress with big dreams, but no experience. But then she remembered Veronica's words. You've already proven you have the talent. You just have to believe in yourself. With that thought, she straightened her back and walked out the door. The meeting was held in a small but modern studio, tucked away in a quiet part of the city. When she arrived, she was greeted by the producer, a man with a warm smile and a kind handshake. He was nothing like she had imagined. He wasn't flashy or arrogant. Instead, he seemed genuine, interested in what she had to offer. Thank you for coming, he said, leading her into the studio. I've listened to your performance, and I have to say, I'm impressed. You have a real gift. The waitress felt a flush of pride. Thank you, she said softly, unsure of how to respond. She had always been self-conscious about her singing, unsure if it was good enough to be heard by more than just a small group of people. But hearing him say those words made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The producer sat down at a keyboard and began to play a soft melody. "I think we can do something special here," he said. "I want you to sing along just like you did in your video. Don't worry about anything. Just sing." The waitress took a deep breath and began to sing. At first, her voice was shaky, uncertain. But as she continued, she began to relax. The music flowed through her, and she allowed herself to fully immerse in it. She wasn't a waitress in that moment. She was an artist, sharing her soul through every note. The producer listened intently, nodding along to the rhythm. When the song ended, he looked at her with a thoughtful expression. "That was beautiful," he said. "You have something real here, something that can connect with people. We can definitely work with this." The waitress felt a wave of relief and excitement wash over her. She had done it. She had stepped into this world, uncertain and scared, but she had shown up, and she had given everything she had. The producer was interested. He wanted to help her make this happen. Over the next few weeks, things moved quickly. The waitress began recording demo tracks, working with the producer to refine her sound. Veronica continued to be her biggest supporter, checking in regularly and reminding her that this was just the beginning. Slowly, the waitress began to gain confidence. She saw that the world she had once thought was out of reach was now right in front of her, waiting for her to take it. Soon, her music started to catch the attention of others. Her first song was released online, and to her surprise, it gained traction. People began to listen. They were drawn to her voice, to the raw emotion that came through in every note. For the first time, the waitress realized that her dream wasn't impossible after all. She had worked hard for this moment. And now, her music was touching people in a way she had never imagined. As the weeks passed, the waitress's life began to change. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a singer, an artist with a future. Her music was spreading, and with it, her confidence grew. She performed at local venues, sharing her voice with ever-growing crowds. Each performance was a step toward realizing the potential she had always known was there, but had kept hidden. Veronica, of course, was there through it all. She had been the one to believe in the waitress when no one else did, the one to remind her that she had something special. The waitress could never forget how Veronica had encouraged her to take that first step. She had been more than a mentor. She had been the one who saw the spark that no one else had noticed. Now, as she stood on stage, her voice carrying through, the crowd, the waitress, realized something. She wasn't just living a dream. She was creating her reality, one note at a time. She was no longer afraid. The future was hers, and she was ready to embrace it. A mini.